So Smite is a game that requires a high amount of team coordination and synergy, and when you get this right, the game becomes one of the most rewarding and fun. But sometimes, well, let's be honest, most of the times this doesn't occur. Bad team synergy leads to losses and computers and controllers get thrown into the wall. So today, I'm going to count down the 5 worst types of players in Smite. Now this is going to be strictly related to conquests, as I don't have enough time in Joust or Duel to warrant saying my opinion. So let's begin the top 5. So number 5 on the list is going to be support dodgers. This boils the blood of most players in Smite as you queue up for 5+ minutes, go through picks and bans, and then the support who's been spamming the VGS to play his main roles doesn't end up picking a god. I think I'm with most in saying I'd rather just play a game with not great support and actually get to play, rather than waiting an extra 10 minutes in the menu waiting on another. Support is a very valuable role to learn, as good support can win you games when played right, and even a not great support that just does the very basics is still very valuable to the team composition as a whole. So number 4 on the list is the I only play one role kind of guys. This is another one in the same vein of support dodgers. This is more specifically aimed at people that play ranked and actually care about their team comp rather than casuals, which you can kind of get away with most of these things, but people that queue up for ranked only knowing one role and refusing to play another because they're not competent are some of the worst kind. The biggest tip anyone can ever give before playing ranked is to become familiar with other roles, as there's a high chance you're not going to get your main role in the first couple of games you play. It's even more frustrating when the person locks in their main god and proceeds to try and play their role even though it's not what they're assigned. It just wastes everyone's time and will only get you recorded by your teammates. Please don't be this kind of guy. So number 3 on the list is one of my personal pet peeves. It's the VGS Spammers. Smite Conquest is a mode that requires a high amount of communication, and in instances where you're not in comms talking, you have to rely heavily on the VGS system. But one toxic player on your team can ruin it with the spams of "you rock" and "cancel that" because you didn't get a successful gank or they were killed, probably at their own fault. Trying to strategize while salty Loki spams just upsets the rhythm of the game and your team's strategy, and I find that it's the most insecure players that do this, as they try and shift all the blame before their team can realise that they're actually just a bad player. For me personally, this is my biggest pet peeve and will always result in an instant muting by me and probably your team as well. Number 2 on the list is the full damage support and solo laners. If you're watching this and are relatively new to Smite, the solo laner and the support are the most tanky in the team and are so important in the late game in team fights and picking off the enemy squishies. The solo laner is a bruiser type that can mitigate a lot of punishment and dish it out at the same, and the support is an aura heavy full tank that's the protection for the squishies in your team, but solos and supports that go full damage can rot in hell for all I care. As soon as they dive the backline, get a couple of crits from the enemy carry, they're done for, and they begin the salty tirade, blaming everybody but themselves for their idiotic build choices. Support in many ways is very similar. Most supports that build damage just didn't want to be support in the first place and decide they just want to try and frag. But in most instances, you're probably just going to get killed quicker and cost you and your teammates a team fight and possibly the game. I can understand the support maybe building the Divine Ruin or even a late game Spear of Desolation like we've seen in the SPL recently, but to build a Rada to Hoodie 4th item and trying to justify it because you bought a Gauntlet of Thieves is not the way to be the support. And number 1 on the list is people blaming the jungler for their own mistakes. This is one that happens in a lot of Smite games, and while your jungler has a very important role, they can't be everywhere at one time and definitely get the hardest time from their teammates. Nothing annoys and frustrates jungle mains more than getting spammed by the geo lane to gank while you're at your team's blue and then getting the "no jungle" in the chat. This is the same for mid laners. A common mistake for new mid laners is pushing way too aggressively without vision of the enemy jungler and getting ganked too easily, then blaming your own team's jungler because of your own mistakes. I can understand if there's an early skirmish going on in mid and your jungler bypasses to secure the side harpies to be angry, but in most situations he's trying not to lose touch with the enemy team and picks his ganks when it's smart to do so. Another issue that arises is if he attempts to attack a lane, if there's no kill off it, it's immediately seen as a bad gank. But forcing relics or making the enemy team back to relieve some pressure is also a very efficient gank, but most new players or just toxic players don't understand this. If you watch the SPL in the regular, you see the junglers just come into lane, unload their kit, and if they don't get a kill, they can be okay with that because it's helped their team in other ways. So that's 5 types of players in Smite that are the worst to be teamed with. I'd like to thank some of the guys on the Smite Reddit for some really good suggestions. There were so many that I think part 2 is definitely going to be required. But anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new, it'd be much appreciated. If there's any more ways Smite players frustrate you, then leave it down in the comments. I'll take that into consideration when recording a part 2. And peace out.